Debbie.
How you doing?
The gentleman said that you guys are tipping this program,
Uh-huh.
so how can I get it?
It's online. Just
Oh,
look
oh,
just
got it
look up
online?
just go to YouTube and type Wasilla SDA.
Okay, so tomorrow gonna be there too?
It,
It's processing now.
it's processing now. It'll be there in an hour.
No, tomorrow program.
I no.
Oh,
I don't believe so.
okay.
Because it's going to be done in the other room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're probably not going to record that one.
What a bummer. Alright, I gotta work tomorrow, so.
Yeah, I don't see that we have.
Paul, you just have to come tomorrow.
No, I gotta work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I promised somebody I'm gonna continue a job that I started earlier in the week.
You know, if you talk to him, he might have all this stuff on a video. You might be able to just get the video from him.
You say you don't have any handles or anything like that?
Yeah.
But I still talk with him. All right, thank you, man.
Yep.
The weather is windy out there.
Yeah.
He's going to start.
The Alimed has a 2-year shelf life. Okay, y'all ready to start again? It's there, right. So let's start again. Mary Lou reminded me she had brought some things up. People like show and tell, visuals. This is oil of oregano. This is the type that is mixed with the and I'll leave it up here, folks can look at it. It's mixed with the olive oil. Another really, really good tool that I use a lot is black seed oil, B-L-A-C-K, black seed oil. And who's from the Caribbean? Okay, I sell it to the ladies of the Caribbean. It's really good, it makes their hair real pretty. It doesn't work for ours like y'all's, but what we use, what I found is good for our hair, to really give the luster like this gives to y'all is olive oil. And Mary Lou will put olive oil in her hair, and she'll sleep with it, and the next morning she'll wash it out twice, and it just really gives a lot of life. This does it for y'all. And so ladies from the Caribbean will order this. They get a bigger bottle, and they put it in here. But guys, this and Podiarco are the best thing I have found for elevated PSA or swollen swollen prostate. And it's you'll do a teaspoon twice a day of black seed oil, and the Podiarco you do 2 mLs of Podiarco a day. But black seed oil is good for cancer because it's huge in boosting the immune system. And black seed oil, B-L-A-C-K, black seed oil. Like the Black Sea, but black seed. 1 teaspoon twice a day. This is vitamin D, which works real well. And then this is, who's ever heard of Thieves? Thieves, and there's different brands like On Guard and whatever. But who's ever heard of Vanderbilt University? Vanderbilt did a study where they went to a lab at Vanderbilt, and they measured pathogen growth on the surface of one of their tables. Then they used a quaternary, and they cleaned it. And as you know, with a quaternary, you have to leave it on there X amount of time for the quaternary to kill. A quaternary is where it kills 4 different areas. It's just a real super pathogen killer. And then they tested it, and they had no pathogen growth. And then they kept testing it, and they found it wasn't long. It had pathogen growth. I forgot how many hours, or it wasn't long. It had pathogen growth on top of the table. Then they went and cleaned the table, and no pathogen growth. And then they sprayed Thieves. And Thieves is a mixture of several different essential oils that goes back to Europe. And grave robbers were using these essential oils to be able to rob graves and not get sick. And so that's how it got the name Thieves until the king caught up with them. Well, they didn't. I don't think they made it when he got a hold of them. But there's different brands. This one, there's different names. And it's really good to boost your immune system. Thieves. Mm-hmm. This one is lemon oil. The essential oil. And tomorrow I'll talk more about essential oils, I'll just wait till tomorrow. I'll talk about that tomorrow. So those are items for immune system. There's other items, but those are some to share with you. So let's talk about stress. How to treat stress and anxiety naturally. Anxiety is something that we have seen explode after COVID. As I talk with my friends that are still in allopathic healthcare, they're telling me that they're seeing their patients. There's a lot of things that have happened, from the issue of cancer, from young folks to, patients that boom out of nowhere. They've got cardiovascular disease, they have diabetes. There's just a bunch of things that have jumped out. But one of the big ones is anxiety, just a lot more anxiety. So we're going to look at two parts. Part one, the effects of stress and anxiety on the body. What's the physiological effects? And then two, natural treatments for stress and anxiety. So number one, what is the physiology? The relationship which exists between the mind and the body is very intimate. When one is affected, the other sympathizes. The condition of the mind affects the health of the physical system. If the mind is free and happy from consciousness of right doing, a sense of satisfaction in causing happiness to others, it creates a cheerfulness that will react upon the whole system, causing a freer circulation of the blood and toning up of the entire body. I'm going to share with you, I'm going to give you prescriptions today. Not from me, but from the medical director. And if you will follow these prescriptions, it's guaranteed, because the medical director is the guy who made us. And so this comes from Councils on Health. So do you see any prescriptions here that is a free and happy, a mind that is free and happy? Do you have a mind that is free? Now, that doesn't mean an emptying of the mind. We don't go there. But I mean a person that's happy. And I'm not talking Pollyanna either. But I'm talking about a person who's a cheerful person. There's some people they're never happy. Have you ever seen them? They're just never happy. You can never satisfy them. They will never be happy because they're always wanting something else. But a person that's free and happy from a consciousness of right doing. Do you have a consciousness of right doing? When you do something wrong, can that mess with you worrying about it? Sure can. That's one prescription right there. A sense of satisfaction and causing happiness to others. Do you have a satisfaction of helping others? That's prescription number two. And it can cause a freer circulation of the blood and a toning up of the entire body. And we know that through this author, thank you, ma'am. Through this author, we find that perfect health is perfect circulation. Yeah. So if you want good health, you got to have good circulation. You've got to have healthy blood, not tainted blood, and blood that has the nutrients in it that it needs. Your fats, your proteins, your carbohydrates, your vitamins, your minerals, your water, your oxygen, your hormones, all those things that's required to be in there. But you don't want things in there that are bad for you. A great deal of sickness which afflicts humanity has its origins in the mind and can only be cured by restoring the mind to health. There are very many more than we imagine who are sick mentally. Heart sickness makes many dyspeptics. That's stomach problems. Can you be worried about things and upset and that mess with your stomach? Absolutely. For mental troubles has a paralyzing influence upon the digestive organs. The mind controls the whole man. All our actions, good or bad, have their source in the mind. It is the mind that worships God and allies us to heavenly beings. Yet many spend all their lives without becoming intelligent in regarding the jewel casket that contains this treasure. 9/10 of disease from which men suffer have their foundation in the mind. That doesn't mean you're crazy, but are you ever stressed? Is that in the mind? Yes, it is. What is stress? Stress is the body's response to a real or perceived threat. Now, what's a perceived threat? Pardon? Virtual, okay. Let's say you're driving home tonight, and you and another car are just booking down the road pretty good, and here comes the blue lights. You know that feeling? That's good. And he passes you and pulls the guy over in front of you. That was perceived. He was coming after you. It wasn't real. So stress is the body's response to a real or a perceived threat, or stressors. Stress is our body's internal alarm system. It's like, I had a boy come by the other day. He's in high school. He's 14 years old. No, how old is he? Yeah, he's a freshman in high school. 14 years old, plays football, and as many times competitive sports can do, it messed up his shoulder really bad. And he has pain. Well, what does that pain prevent him from doing? Playing football. Have you ever sprained your ankle and then you can't walk on it? That pain stops you from hurting it more. Stress, hopefully, is an alarm that says stop. That's wrong. Stress prepares the body to take action, such as in fight or flight. 3 types of stress: acute stress, and we covered this a little bit before, but we'll go a little in depth here. Episodic acute and chronic stress. The American Psychological Association. So what are they? Acute stress. Immediate onset, which forces the body into an immediate reaction. It could be a minor traffic accident. It could be an argument. It could be an impending deadline. Episodic acute stress is acute stress which occurs frequently, escalating demands for personal time and attention. Sometimes at work, you feel like, do you ever feel at work that someone's pulling this arm, and if you had 5 more arms, they'd be pulling them too? That's what that is. Careless worry and anxiety. Type A behavioral characterized by a competitive drive, aggressiveness, impatience, urgency. Do you ever meet people like that who are impatient? They're urgent, you know. I have a friend. That's how he gets you to do something. He'll get up to you, and he's right up to here. And that's how he gets you to do something. It's like, okay, I'll do it. Get away from me. You know, you ever see people like that? Chronic stress, long-term stress. And if y'all don't know, this is my wife. It's okay. Long-term stress, unrelenting job, family pressures, sleep deprivation, strained roles and responsibilities at work and at home. That's chronic stress, those long-term stresses. It can be also health. You're having health challenges that are causing a lot of mental stress. It has been estimated that 75 to 90% of all visits to primary care physicians are for stress-related problems. Job stress is far and away the leading source of stress for adults. But stress levels have also escalated in children, teenagers, college students, and the elderly for other reasons, including increased crime, violence, other threats to personal safety, pernicious peer pressures that lead to substance abuse or other unhealthy lifestyle habits, social isolation and loneliness, the erosion of family and religious values and ties, the loss of other strong sources of social support that are powerful stress busters. Do you see that today? Can you see social media in there after what you learned from Scott Retzmuth? Absolutely. We are all subject to stressors. The amount of stress we experience depends on how we respond to them. My first house fire. I was back when I started, you didn't go to fire school to go to a fire. When you got to it, they'd send you to fire school. I mean, you could literally join. They'd hand you your turnouts today. And in 5 minutes, if there's a house fire, you're on the back of the tail. Remember when we used to ride tailboards? You're on the tailboard going to a fire. That was the way it used to be. Today, in the state of Tennessee, it's illegal to allow, as a fire chief, allow a new person on the fire scene until they go through a course first for safety. And it's for their safety. My first house fire. I just gotten my turnouts. It was a night fire in Ooltewah. It was a 2-story single-family dwelling, 2 bedrooms upstairs. Downstairs was a living room, bathroom, kitchen, small little house. Fire in both bedrooms upstairs. We go in. I'm going behind. There's 2 lieutenants on the line. I was going up the stairs behind them. And then we had a rollover. And that's where we have fire. And literally from here to the ceiling was fire. I had never seen that before. I had not been conditioned to that before. I left them guys going down the stairs as quick as I could. I could not breathe. I was hyperventilating. I was trying to get my air pack off to get some air. I get out on the front porch. They come up to see what's wrong with me. I'm falling out of the house like I've been injured or something. They realized, yeah, he's the newbie. And they gave me a bag to breathe into. Today, it's pretty cool. You know, we know things to cool it down and help prevent from flashovers and from rollovers. And we try to prevent it because we know fire behavior and we're looking for signs. But it's pretty cool to look inside a house fire. It really is. Doesn't bother you. Why? I've been into some house fires over the last 42 years. Our first child, Walter gets sick, boom, we're at the doctor's office or the emergency room. Ashley comes along. Not as much. Carson comes along. He'll be okay. Remember that as parents? As anybody a school teacher? Remember the first classroom you had and the very first time? Yeah. But then after a few years, I asked nothing. No?
No, I was talking to somebody about that the other day, and the gal was saying, I'm really nervous about the first day of school. And I go, yeah, I taught school for 30 years, and I was still nervous about that.
We are all subject to stressors. The amount of stress we experience depends on how we respond to them. And how do we respond? It happens with the brain. Financial, work, relationship, health, traffic, pollution. How do we respond verbally, physically, mentally? Someone comes up to you and they're yelling, screaming at you. How do you respond? You going to grab a gun and shoot them? In some places that would happen. I was in Atlanta one time. I went to a convention and work caught me late. I got into Atlanta late. There was a convention I was at and I was lost. I drive up to a red light. And someone was beside me. I rolled the window down, and they rolled their window down, and I asked them for directions. They started screaming at me. I just knew they was going to pull out a gun and just shoot across the car at me. I just took off through the red light. And I hoped a cop would come to protect me because this guy went nuts on me. How do you respond? It's based on how your brain deals with it. It's not just the first time issues, but it's the issues of, does anybody ever cross you? Does anybody ever say something nasty to you? Does it push the red button? Dr. Walter Cannon's classic research, cat confronted by a dog. He takes a cat that hates dogs and he takes a dog that hates cats. He takes the vitals on the cat and he lets him go. And then he snatches up the cat and he takes vitals on it. And this is what he finds. Heart rate went up, respirations went up, blood sugar went up, clotting mechanism went up, muscle function went up, digestive process stopped. Because when the bear is running after you, you don't need to digest food. Your energy needs to be for getting away. Then they look to see, well, if that happens to a cat, what happens to a human? And this is what they found, what stress does to the human. Increases the heart rate, increases blood pressure, increases respirations, increases... Now think of this as you're working with someone who has health issues, like high blood pressure. So could you see how chronic stress could be an issue? Can you see that? Can you see how a person who has tachycardia, pulse over 100, can you see how a person who has chronic stress could have tachycardia? And what the treatment might need to be? It might need to be address the stress. It might be a person who has hormone or adrenal issues or high blood sugar. Maybe it could be that stress is what you need to help them work on. Do you see that correlation? Increased muscle functions, queasy stomach, nervous perspirations, headaches, sporadic eating, increased hunger, loss of appetite. So it can go one way or the other there. Changes in sleep habits. Reduction of the digestive process, reduction of immune system. Under stress, the body releases cortisol and adrenaline, which raises the blood pressure and prepares the body for doing battle. When physical action is taken, exercise, the body uses up the stress hormones in the blood, reducing stress and relaxing the body. So let's go back to Duke University, Dr. Walter Kempner, that genius doctor there. It's interesting, this guy was from Germany. And did I mention about him last night? About why he left Germany? His parents kicked him out of Germany. It was 1933. They told him he needed to leave. Kempner's already an MD. He already had a PhD in science. I believe it was biochemistry. But his parents said, you got to leave and go to America. Well, reluctantly he left. Both his mom and father, who were both physicians, said, leave now. There was something going on in Germany he thought would blow over. It's kind of crazy. He didn't think it would mean anything. It would just blow over. Kempner was Jewish. It didn't blow over. And Kempner ended up living because he came to America and he obeyed his parents as an adult, as a doctor, as a PhD. Sometimes honor thy father and thy mother can be beneficial, can't it? Well, Kempner found, as we talked, exercising 4 times a day is what he said the human needs to do. Exercise 4 times a day. Not only is it going to keep the blood sugar down, but it's also going to keep the cortisol and the adrenaline down on that person who's stressed with chronic stress. Can you see how that works physiologically? When physical action is taken, the body uses up the stress hormones in the blood, reducing stress and relaxing the body. Exercising that 4 times a day is amazing. When physical action is not taken, such as when we're sitting at our desk, stuck in traffic, hurrying to finish up our taxes before midnight, the stress hormones and chemicals in our blood remain for longer periods of time. Thus, those effects on the body continue to wreak on the body. You're still going to have that high blood pressure. You're going to maintain that high pulse. You're going to maintain that communication to the nerves and the muscles, shutting down digestion. There was a lady, she's a nurse, and to make extra money, she would draw labs. And then at different places, businesses, churches, communities, private, whatever, she drew your lab. And as a good nurse, when it came back, she would sit down with you and say, here's, your cortisol's doing this, your HDL's doing this, your whatever. Well, she went to this group of people, and they all, pretty well all of this group had low protein. So she sits down with each individual person. What do you eat? What do you eat? Yeah, and what proteins do they eat in their diet? And everyone presented good, healthy, quality protein. But why was there not enough protein in the blood? So she goes in and lists the health of a mutual friend of ours. He's a physician out in West Tennessee. And he comes in. And he also talks to the people and tries to figure out why is their protein level in this group low. It's not just 1 or 2 people. It's pretty well everybody. Well, the problem was it was a church, a conservative church. Have you ever seen a conservative church that folks are worrying about everything? They worry about what you do and you do and you do. And you ever seen churches like that? And they want to change you. They want to be your conscience. Well, that was one of them churches. And what happened is if you are in that chronic state of worry, 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 it shuts down digestion. And what's happening is you don't, during that digestive process, if you're stressed all the time, you don't adequately break those macronutrients down to micronutrients, like protein, to where it can be absorbed into the small intestines and the villi, which have little bitty holes, and it just goes right out the feces. And that's what was happening to this church, is they weren't getting adequate protein in the body, though they were eating the protein. So you see how this works. Stress affects the onset treatment, or recovery from the following diseases and conditions. Stress affects the onset, treatment, or recovery from the following diseases. So even though here you have these problems I'm about to bring up, and the doctor gives you drugs, if you still have stress, you're still rubbing the arm with the sandpaper. You're not getting rid of the root cause. How many of y'all have a tractor with a bucket or a front loader? Okay? So you got your front loader, and you pull it back, and the bucket goes up, and then it goes back down. You pull it back up again, goes back up, let off, and it slowly goes back. What's wrong? Hydraulic fluid. It's probably something wrong. And you look back, and you're trailing this fluid behind the tractor. Well, you have two choices. You can get you a hired hand. Y'all know what a hired hand is. And they can pour hydraulic fluid from a 5-gallon bucket, or you can fix the leak. And that's what's going on here. So stress affects the onset. That can cause the problem. It can affect the treatment of the problem. It can even affect the recovery from the problem if you don't get rid of the stress or manage the stress. Cardiovascular disease, cancer, angina pectoris, that's chest pain when you have cardiac issues. Diabetes, tuberculosis, rheumatoid arthritis, hypertension, ulcers, AIDS. Now wait a minute, Walt. How does stress affect AIDS? Because AIDS is you think of as bloodborne pathogen, right? A bloodborne issue. Well, what happens is you get HIV from a bloodborne issue, and then stress will kick it faster into full-blown AIDS. Muscle-related conditions, allergies, common colds, warts, skin rashes, loss of hair, and graying of hair can happen because of stress. Where is the real danger? Acute stress or chronic stress? The chronic stress. You're not getting those chemicals out of the system. Unrelieved stress causes the damage. Mental effects of an ongoing stressor, mental fatigue, loss of spontaneity, creativity, confusion, forgetfulness, difficulty in making decisions, anxiety, depression, lower self-worth. Can you see how stress also affects your ability to prepare for the battle? It's huge. Lowers intellectual functioning, boredom, emotional hypersensitivity. Have you ever seen people that if you just look at them, they fall apart? In dealing with employees, there's some employees that if they did something wrong, you just look at them or say something and you touch them with a feather and they just fell over. Some people you take a 4x4 and it still didn't do anything to them. There's different personalities. Feeling of isolation and alienation, tendency towards suppression of feelings, withdrawals, aggression, quick temper, loss of control, increased risk-taking behaviors, increased drug use and abuse. So as you look at these, does stress affect our walk with God? Or can it? Yes. Can it affect our effectiveness in pointing the sin-sick soul to Christ? Yes, it can. Did you know that just 1 minute of anger, and we talked about this in the last session, can suppress your immune system for up to 6 hours? And we know from Arvo Kana that stress will do the same as anger. So that's the effects of stress on the body. I think kind of different. I like to know information to make a decision. I like to know a lot of information to make a decision. So these are things that stress causes can affect your body, how it can affect your body in order for you to make a decision on, I need to do something. What can you do? So you want to get out your pens again. I'm going to give you more prescriptions from the medical director. I tell you what, let's stand up. Do y'all know this song? How many of you know this song? A merry heart. All right. So we're going to sing it through once, and then we'll sing it through a second time. We're in church, so I don't march in church. But if I wasn't in here, I'd have y'all marching. But let's sing it. A merry heart doeth good like a medicine. Like a medicine is a merry heart. But a broken spirit dry up the bones. A merry heart doeth good like a medicine. Okay, now everybody knows it. You ready? A merry heart doeth good like a medicine. Like a medicine is a merry heart. But a broken spirit dry up the bones. A merry heart doeth good like a medicine. Okay, have a seat. I was in New York teaching, and there was a lot of folks out of New York City that had come that were in the medical field, and it was actually presented for the medical field. New York was causing some new regulations and immunizations, and Dr. Thrash and several of us were there speaking. And I remember we would sing this to let people know we're getting ready to start the class. This lady stands up right in the back, in the middle, and she says, I need to tell y'all something. Her specialty was bone marrow. That's all she worked on was bone marrow. She's a physician. And she says, when a person is happy, the bone marrow produces a chemical that boosts the immune system. But if you're not a happy person, the bone marrow does not produce this chemical. Isn't it amazing? Just proving this right here.
That word is true.
It is, isn't it? Disease is sometimes produced and is often greatly aggravated by the imagination. Many are lifelong invalids who might be well if they only thought so. I had an aunt. If you went to visit her and you had arthritis, she had arthritis, and she'd go to Mayo and get it checked out. If you went to her and you had a cold, she had a cold, and she went to Mayo. I mean, she just went back and forth to Mayo. She had the money. If you went to her and you had cancer, she had cancer. I mean, whatever you had, she then had it. It was in her head. But how powerful is the mind? Our neighbor, Mary Lou and I were driving down the mountain one Sunday about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, heading into work, do some work at work. We'd been doing some work at the house and decided to go into work, do some work. We're driving down the mountain. I come up to my neighbor's house, and he's out walking around. His hair looks all crazy, and he's in a robe. And I stopped and I said, what's wrong? He said, I got cancer, lung cancer. I said, I got out and I said, where's wife and kids? He said, I left them in Charlotte. I didn't want them to watch me die. So I need you to watch after me. In other words, when he died, fell over, and I didn't see him, then I'd call in someone to haul him off. I said, what's going on? He says, I went to Charlotte. They diagnosed me with end-stage lung cancer, stage 4, and nothing they can do. So I said, well, what about juicing, soups, and whatever? And so Mary Lou started making him some things. He got worse and worse. He got to the point his brother had to come and take care of him. He was on the couch, couldn't get up off the couch, started having difficulty breathing. I said, listen, you've got to get a concentrator. You're having difficulty breathing. It's this process. You're going to start having pain. You've got to have oxygen. Just got worse and worse. And I told his brother, I said, you got it. I said, listen. He said, I ain't got no more money. He says, I've used all my money. I said, well, here's what you do. You go to UT, which is state hospital. You can get on Medicaid immediately at that hospital, and they can get you hospice. They can get you whatever, and they will get you oxygen. So finally, his brother takes him to UT. The next day, I drive by, and here's a neighbor out walking around, clothed, everything looking honky-dory. I said, what's going on? He said, oh, they misdiagnosed me down in Charlotte. I ain't got no lung cancer. I believe the man would have died. I really do. I mean, he was getting worse and worse. He wouldn't get up and ambulate. It was terrible. The power of the mind. Disease is sometimes produced and is often greatly aggravated by the imagination. Many are lifelong invalids who might be well if they only thought so. Ministry of Healing, 242. Now, where I come from, I don't know if people do it here, and I don't encourage this. I have people say, I won't claim it. Have you ever heard that term? They get diagnosed with something, I ain't going to claim that. Well, if there's a problem, you need to do something about it. But at least they're not, Okay, here's some more some more prescriptions. You ready to write them down? This is the prescriptions. Courage, hope, faith, sympathy, love, promote health, and prolong life. Do you have courage? Do you have hope? Do you have faith? Are you sympathetic? Are you one of those people who, if something happens to a person, it don't matter to you, it's not you, so you care less? Or do you have sympathy? Do you have empathy? Do you have love? See, I'm a bottom line person. And the bottom line to the universe is two things. It's real simple. Two things. At first, there was a culture of love for eternity. Lucifer brought in the culture of self. That's it. There's only one of two things. Either you have love or you have self. There's actually a diagnosis that's back, probably around 2015, that psychologists said it just ain't right when people do this. You ever seen people do that? Oh man, it's what people do all the time now. And the psychologists say if they do it more than 3 times a day, this is the diagnosis. I'll see them in just one picture doing it. Not all the other times of the day. And the diagnosis is called self-itis. That's a literal diagnosis. It's got an ICD-10 code. Self-itis. Inflammation of self. Who was the first person that had self-itis? Lucifer. That's right. And so God's saying here, love promotes health. You got to come over to this side, over from the self side, come over to the love side if you want to get rid of disease and sickness. Can you see how that works? A contented mind. Here's another one. A cheerful spirit is health to the body and strength to the soul. We'll continue. Gratitude, rejoicing, benevolence. What's benevolence? We had a Sabbath school lesson on that several years ago. Remember that? Giving to people. Some people won't give up nothing. They're tight as a penny. They squeak. Gratitude, rejoicing, benevolence, trusting God's love and care. These are health's greatest safeguards. Pardon? It produces a chemical. She didn't say what chemical it was, but it improves the immune system. Yes. Do you have gratitude? Are you happy? Are you rejoicing? Do you help others out? Do you trust in God's love and care? The relation that exists between the mind and the body is very intimate. When one is affected, the other sympathizes. The condition of the mind affects the health to a far greater degree than many realize. Many of the diseases from which men suffer are the result of mental depression, grief, anxiety, discontent, remorse, guilt, distrust, all tend to break down life's forces and to invite decay and death. Do you have anxiety? Do you have discontent? Are you not happy with what you have? Are you not happy with your home? Are you not happy with your car? Are you not happy with you fill in the word? Do you have remorse of doing something wrong? Do you have guilt of doing something wrong? If we have guilt, if we've done something wrong, remorse and guilt are a side effect. That is a symptom. But so how do you get rid of that guilt and remorse? You ask for forgiveness, and you don't do it again. Distrust. My father-in-law would always say, a person who doesn't trust is a person who themselves probably can't be trusted themselves. So how can I manage my stress? Now I say how can I because we do have a responsibility. It is God where the power comes from. But we have to do certain things. And I say that in that context. There's controllables and non-controllables. When people come in, I encourage them they come in with a lot of stress. I encourage them to take a piece of paper and write down all of their stressors. And then on the other piece of paper, they and make a T on the paper. A T. The T bar that we use in business. Okay, what went well, what's some problems, in that after action report. And on the left side, you put controllables. On the other part, you put non-controllables. I have a lady that comes to see me. And her son, she was in a lot of grief. And I understand that. Well, to the extent that I can understand. I don't understand it. I haven't been there. Her son shot a state trooper. He's in prison. He's going to be there probably the rest of his life. And they told her she'll probably never see him again. She's tried to go see him, and they won't allow her to see him. She's gone multiple times. Actually, she just went 2 weeks ago, and I haven't heard yet if they let her. She says a good possibility they won't. But she's still trying. And I get that. I'd do that too. I'd camp out over there. And she was just so stressed. And I said, here's what you do. On the left side, you put those triggers that you can do something about. It's kind of like finances. If you're tight finances, you can eat beans and rice and beans. And you can turn the lights out when you're not using them. And you don't buy a highfalutin car. You buy something that can get you there that's affordable. And you only drive where you need to drive. That's how you control that thing. On the non-controllable side of finances, you're going to have to pay your taxes, or they're going to take your property or take you to jail. So I told her to write down, my boy's in prison. I may never see him again, on the non-controllable side. And then you take that piece of paper and you plumb rip it in half. Set the controllable side down. The non-controllable side, you go sit down and talk to God. And say, God, there's never a thing I can do to fix this. Fretting, crying, ain't going to fix it. Will you take it? Now, does God love us? Would you do anything within the scope of what God would say for your child if your child needed it? Yes. God will do even more for you. It's true. He will. And so you give him that piece of paper and you let go. Don't take it back. And then Satan is going to come back, I told her, which he did. And he's going to say, your boy's in prison, you're never going to see him again. Your boy's in prison, you're never going to see him again. And I said, you tell Satan when them thoughts come to your head, that's not mine, it's God. Now go on, get out of here. And you say, in Jesus' name, Satan, get thee behind me. In Jesus' name, Satan, get thee behind me. I said, I don't care if you say it for 20 minutes. Just keep saying it. And that's what she did. And she now is having much more success. How powerful is that statement? Mary Lou was up at the house. She was homeschooling the kids. I was at work by myself. It's back when we first started at the store. We didn't have as much going on. And so on Friday, it was a Friday, around 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, 10 something. And I've got 4 ladies I'm helping, and behind the cash register. And my peripheral catches this lady come in, in probably her late 20s. Comes in, no, early 30s, probably early mid-30s, probably. Yeah, mid-30s. I'm thinking of how old her boy was. Mid-30s. Comes in, comes around and walks behind the counter and stands right here. She looked like a whooped dog. She looked bad. She dressed like a gypsy. She looked like she'd been run over. She says, "You Walt?" "Yes." "They told me you could help me." And I said, "Well, I'm by myself today. I can't sit down and because other folks will be coming in. I want to be uninterrupted. Can you be here Monday morning at 8 o'clock? She says, "Yes." And she's walking out. She looks at me and she says, "I'll be the worst case you've ever dealt with." And I kept walking and left. And we're looking, those 4 ladies are looking like, what just walked in here? And I did too. Monday morning, she was right on time. She sat down, I sat down. And so I start doing a history. "Tell me what's going on." She said, "I've been to psychiatrist and counseling doesn't help. I'm sorry, drugs don't help. I've been to psychologists and counseling doesn't help." And they told me that she came from next county over from Gatlinburg. And she said, "They told me your herbs might be able to help me." I said, "What's going on?" And she says that her mind's just bothering her real bad. And so I start doing a history. What do you eat? When do you eat? Tell me about your exercise. Just a basic history. And she stops me. She says, "Can I tell you something?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "I can levitate stuff. Can you believe me? I can make things levitate." I said, "Yes, ma'am, I believe that." She didn't say nothing else. So I continued on. What do you think I did? I started praying. So I continued on. And she said, "I need to tell you something else." I said, "Okay." She says, "See that new store over there, O'Reilly's Auto Parts? I've never been in it, but I can tell you where everything is. Do you believe me?" "Yes, ma'am, I do." We got confirmation here, right? And so I kind of deviated off, and I'm talking to her about how to improve brain function. She'd already come in with brain issues, but what does she need to do that would help her situation? And then I spoke about the word Jesus. And you would have thought I hit her with cattle prod. She started shaking. Shaking like a seizure. I said, "What's wrong with you?" And she says, "They don't like that word." They don't like that word. So I continued on. And I thought, well, let me do some testing here. I said, "God." I talked about God. She did not shake. And it showed me how much more Satan and his angels hate Jesus more than God. Again, I went back and double tested. In science, you test and retest. Went back and I said Jesus again about something, and she went off shaking again. So I encouraged her to do some things to increase brain function. I gave her some things. She didn't bring any money, but I gave it to her. She needed it. And I said, "Now here's what I want you to do. Every time they talk to you, I want you to say, 'In Jesus' name, Satan, get thee behind me.' Whether it takes you 20 minutes or more, you keep saying it till they quit talking to you." She said, "Okay." So we get up, we start walking out, and I remembered, the Holy Spirit reminds you of stuff. Just the week before, 2 men, Gideon, have come, and they brought me a little New Testament Bible to hand out to somebody. So I went and got it. There's a little white New Testament. And I gave it to her, and I said, "I want you to read this also between now and next Monday, and I want you back here next Monday at 8 o'clock. Next Monday at 8 o'clock, she came in. She was on time again. And she looked like a whole different woman. Totally dressed kind of weird still. But her face, her countenance was a whole different person. And I said, how are you doing? She said, I'm doing good. And I said, are they still talking to you? She said, no, they don't talk to me no more. And I said, what did you do? She said, I did what you told me. I said that, what you told me to say. And they won't talk to me now. And I said, did you get a chance to read that little book I gave you? And she said, yes. I especially liked the first 4 books in that book. Now, what did especially mean? She had read more than. I said, why did you like those 4 books? She said, because it talks about Jesus. And she didn't shake. Do you see the power of saying, in Jesus' name, Satan, get thee behind me? Well, she did well for a good while. Got to know Mary Lou, painted something for Mary Lou, a big old picture of a cat. Mary Lou wants a tiger when she gets to heaven. And she painted a picture of a tiger for Mary Lou. Big old, huge, big old picture of a tiger. And then I noticed she started having some challenges again. And I said, do you have anything in your house that could have been related to what you were doing before? See, the way she got into this is there was something that she found out that you could use to find out if a pregnant woman, if it was a boy or a girl. Just the way something happened. And I won't mention what it is. That's all it was. And then it took her over. And she says, yes, I still have those things at the house. I said, you need to get rid of them. Throw them in the river because you can't burn them. I said, throw them in the river. But she wouldn't. And she went right back to where she was before. See how the belief that once saved, always saved? If you don't cut it out, you'll happen back into it again. And he's got her again. And she won't come out this time. She will not come out this time. It's sad. And so as you look at those, and then you take that, so you give those non-controllables to God, give them to Him, and then the controllables, you take His hand and you work on those. Does that make sense? It really helps. Controllables can be nutrition, the 8 laws of health. These are all controllables. God gave these to us, and they're extremely beneficial. Let's quickly look at some. I won't go through all these. Let's do this. Time-wise, it's just talking about the different nutrients here. Vitamin A can help with stress, where you can get vitamin A, the different foods. The B vitamins, the benefit of B complex. B complex is phenomenal. I was at Florida Hospital in 1978, and there's an old doc there told me, he said, Walt, if you want to help patients, your patients with stress, he said, this is the best thing I've ever found. B complex. Who's ever used B complex? It's phenomenal. It really helps. And then I remembered when I was 10 years old. We changed schools, moved to the city, bigger city, and the school I'd gone to was a 3-room school. Then it went to, a 2-room school, and then I went to a school, it was a church school, and they had 2 rooms for each grade. And I just had no interest in being there. I come off a farm. I had no interest in that stuff. I'd rather be playing. And it's back in the days of we didn't have air conditioning at school, you know, and we had moved to Florida because of my mom being sick, and they opened up the windows, and I'd rather watch the squirrels and listen to the birds and think about being outside playing on my bicycle. You like playing on your bicycle. That's all I think about is riding my bicycle. And the teacher told my parents, you got to do something with this boy. He can't pay attention. He wants to talk to other kids. He won't pay attention. So they took me to a pediatrician. Unfortunately, ADD, ADHD, all that hadn't come around yet. And all them drugs hadn't come around yet. And that's what the doctor put me on, with B complex. And it worked. The teacher quit complaining. But B complex works very well. See, when you're stressed, your body dumps B vitamins. It dumps lithium. It dumps magnesium. And you need enough to deal with the next stressor. Just like in the immune system, it dumps vitamin E, it dumps vitamin C, it dumps, all these nutrients that are important for the immune system. Foods that have B1. B2. B3. I remember asking Dr. Campbell one day, T. Colin Campbell at Cornell, I said, Dr. Campbell, I said, I know you want us to get all of our nutrients from food. I'm into that. I said, but to get the outcomes that I find in using B-complex 100 3 times a day with meals or with fluids, how can I get that in food? And Campbell goes, Walt, you can't. You cannot. You're going to have to supplement to get that amount. So if you have a person that's just major stressed, dumps a lot of B vitamins, to get enough B to bring them back to where they belong, you may have to supplement. And Neil Nedley talks about that in his book, Depression: The Way Out. If a person is so stressed, and to get them back where they belong, they may have to take some supplementation. Vitamin C is very important for stress. Vitamin C is another powerful antioxidant that scavenges free radicals and protects against some of the harmful effects of stress. We dump C when we're stressed. Studies indicate that cellular levels of vitamin C drop when subjected to stress. Just all kinds of research we can talk about here. Vitamin E, in the same research study, vitamin C research was reduced by, vitamin C was reduced by stress. It was found that vitamin E also reduced in the cellular level, and those two affect the immune system. Minerals, magnesium. When you are stressed, cortisol goes up, adrenaline goes up. When adrenaline goes up, to protect our cells from adrenaline, God put a fire extinguishing system in our body. And it dumps a chemical that buffers the cells to prevent the adrenaline from hurting it. That chemical is magnesium. So if you're a person that has chronic stress, you're dumping magnesium constantly to protect yourself from the adrenaline. And that's why so many people are deficient in magnesium today. Restless leg syndrome, Charlie horses, 75% of that is due to magnesium deficiency. Number 2 is dehydration. Number 3 is potassium. Number 4 is iron. And we're seeing more and more iron deficiency today because people aren't eating their greens. Magnesium, calcium, zinc, potassium, lithium. Lithium is phenomenal. Now, I'm not talking about the lithium drug that you use. I'm talking about lithium orotate. Has anyone ever used lithium orotate? Lithium is phenomenal for stress. Because, see, you dump lithium when you're stressed. You're going to have to replace it. And so by taking lithium orotate, yes, it helps with preventing aging, preventing dementia from aging, but it also is significant for stress, anxiety, depression, bipolar, and schizophrenia. Amazing. Just 5 milligrams with each meal. You can use more if you need to, but it's not like your synthetic one. Let's see what else here. Pardon? It's an element. It's an element that's in the ground, like your zinc or copper. So let me do these based on time. There's just, we're getting on in time. So let me share some things that can help. Magnesium is really beneficial. Ashwagandha. Who's ever used ashwagandha? Ashwagandha is an amazing herb that works very well. Mary Lou gives it to me almost every night. My brain is a brain that I don't get done what I expect myself to get done, and I worry about it. And so I'm laying there in bed trying to figure out how I'm going to get what I didn't get done today that I want to get done tomorrow. And you ever that way? And this just turns it off. And I go to sleep. It works really well. In the daytime, it doesn't make me sleep. It's not like something that's going to make me sleep. It just turns this to where I'm not worrying. In the daytime, you can use it if you want to calm your brain down too, if you're worrying about that test. Was it used talked about at school, about tests? Yeah, ashwagandha will help with that. Adrenal sense. One of the problems is stress blows the adrenals. Thyroid problems, fibromyalgia problems. So many issues we have are because we've blown the adrenals with stress. This has rhodiola, suma, eleuthero, shishandra, ashwagandha, and those herbs are very good to build the adrenals. Another item that's really good for stress is trace minerals. And what happens is, I've talked several times, I've given this illustration. You've got fats, proteins, carbohydrates. You got vitamins. Vitamins are a catalyst that kicks on the function of vitamins, proteins, and carbohydrates. If you don't have enough vitamins at 8 cylinders, even though you have consumed enough fats, proteins, and carbohydrates, they're not going to work right. But then you've got another catalyst that has to be on 8 cylinders to kick on the vitamins and make them be 8 cylinders to make the fats, proteins, and complex carbohydrates work, and that is minerals. Because of eroded skin, the skin has eroded. The soil has eroded because of processed foods, and also because of hybrid seeds. University of North Carolina Department of Agriculture found that heirloom seeds versus hybrid seeds only uptake 40% of the nutrients out of the soil that the heirloom seed could pull out. So if you're making in a garden, you want to use heirlooms because of you're losing 40 cents on a dollar. Plus the heirlooms are going to have the amylase, protease, and lipase that they've hybridized out in the hybridized ones, and it causes more work on the body for producing enzymes. And so by taking a trace mineral, it can help then have your minerals at 8 cylinders to kick on the vitamins at 8 cylinders to kick on the fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Trace minerals are phenomenal. Also, if you have something called in the feet, plantar fasciitis. 1 teaspoon twice a day is amazing for plantar fasciitis. I had a guy probably about 2 months ago, came in, within a week and a half, his plantar fasciitis was gone. Normally it takes about 3 months, but he caught it. He came in when it was on set. He just got diagnosed. I told him to do teaspoon twice a day within a week and a half. A couple years ago, I started having symptoms of plantar fasciitis. Talked to a friend of mine. I said, diagnose this thing. He goes, I'll give you a shot. It'll take care of it. I said, no, just check it. Do I have plantar fasciitis? Give me a diagnosis. He checked and he says, yeah, you got plantar fasciitis. Come on, let me give you a shot. It'll take care of it. I said, all I want is the diagnosis. 2 weeks, it was gone. It's amazing what trace minerals can do. And I'm going to finish with two more items. I should have done this earlier. You want to help me with this? Who's ever heard of lavender essential oil? Who's ever heard of vetiver essential oil? Vetiver, V-E-T-I-V-E-R. What you want to do is take this lavender. I'm just going to mess up my shirt, so I won't. You put 1 drop right here and breathe it. And then you take 1 drop of vetiver. Now, the viscosity is much higher in the vetiver, so it's going to come out a lot slower. And you'll put 1 drop here, and you'll rub it. And so, are you doing it to them, Mary Lou?
Yeah, vetiver is
Okay. Are we sending it around, or are you putting it on? Okay, I'm going to send it around. So, lavender is the #1 essential oil in the world that's used. So, you're going to put 1 drop. Be careful. The lavender drips real fast. I don't want to mess up your clothes. And the other one, the vetiver, it's going to take a while. And then rub it together. Transdermally, it will go into transdermally like a nicotine patch or nitro. Do you still do nitro patches? and it will transdermally go into the blood. And then when you breathe it, it's going to go into the blood in the lungs. One day I was working at the office, and Mary Lou wasn't there, and Walter was there. He was sitting by the herb cabinet helping a lady with some issues. I had several ladies at the counter I was checking out. And this young girl in her 20s comes walking in, comes around, she stands at the essential oils, and you could just feel she wasn't doing good. You could just tell this girl was not doing good. And when I was a boy, I lived on a farm. My daddy said, you watch cows' eyes, you watch their gait, you watch their head, and you can tell a lot by doing that. And you can do the same thing with people. And so I told the lady, excuse me, just a moment. So I walked over to the girl, and I said, are you okay? And she said, I am having the worst anxiety attack I have ever had. Can you help me? I said, just a minute. So I went back in the back room, and I got my vetiver and a lavender, and I put it on my arm, and I did it. Now, let's say you have a patient that's having a major anxiety attack, and the drugs that the doctor prescribes, is that doc going to try the drugs out to show them it's not harmful? And I tried it, and I said, can I put it on you? And she said, yes. So I put it on her. I put the lavender first, and she rubbed it and breathed it, and she put the vetiver. And I said, it's going to take you a few minutes. Just stand right here. I'll be right back. Just relax. And I prayed that God would bless it. I went back over, and I started helping. I finished out the lady I was helping. Walter finished, and I said, Walter, and I let him know, now get to this lady because she's having problems. And so he gets up, he goes right over to her, and I'm finishing up this lady, and we're talking 2 minutes. And he starts talking to her, and I hear her talking. It is a different voice, a total different voice, a calm voice. And I said to the lady I was getting ready to, I finished her, and the other lady, I said, just a minute. So I walked back over, and I said, how are you doing? She says, what did you just do to me? She said, it was the worst anxiety attack I've ever had, and it is gone. I said, it's what God just did to you. See how we can use it together and give God the credit? I was in Crossville, I was in Pikeville, Tennessee, and I was giving a class like being here. It was Sunday afternoon, and a gentleman came up to me. This eye here was just going as fast as it could go, like this. And this eye was just stable. And he said, I'm a Vietnam vet. I'm having a PTSD attack. Do you have something that will help me? And I used the same thing. Vetiver is known as the PTSD essential oil. So I put it on me, put it on him. He came back up less than 5 minutes, and he had symmetry in both eyes, both just still as could be. He says the PTSD attack is gone. It's amazing what God has given us, so simple, that can help us with our health issues. The other issues that I want to close with these, exercise. Exercise, again, lowers cortisol. Drinking adequate water significantly helps with brain function and helps with stress. We talked about the nutrition and things. But the most powerful thing to do is what? Pray. But just as we said yesterday, you can't tell her that you're never going to eat again. And God's just going to keep you going. Right? God's going to say, I gave you a brain. I gave you food. Now use them. And so God has given us these essential oils. He's given us these exercises. He's given us the nutrition. He's given us these 8 laws of health that can help us with whatever those problems are. And so I encourage you, whether it's stress, whether it's depression, whether it's hypertension, whatever the problem may be, to use those tools that God has given us. I think we have some time for some question and answers. Do y'all have any question and answers? Or questions? Yes, sir. Can I talk about that tomorrow? I'd rather do that not on Sabbath and giving brand names and stuff. Yeah. You're looking for quality is exactly what you're doing, and we'll do that tomorrow morning if we can do that. Okay? Yes?
You talked about far infrared. What about far infrared sauna? Is that
Excellent. Far infrared sauna or far infrared light or both are very, very effective. It has two ceramic lights in it that produce the far infrared. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
My daughter has fibromyalgia.
Yes.
And with the barometric pressure changes, it puts her to bed. Everything is so bad.
Okay, so the question is, what do you do for fibromyalgia? Mary Lou has fibromyalgia. One doctor I took her to, he wanted to take her gallbladder out. He said that was her problem. It wasn't. And so we kept searching around. We found that adrenals, blown adrenals, can affect fibromyalgia. And we started using these herbs that I just mentioned in that one bottle for the adrenals, and it takes care of it. She does two.
Curious that the barometric pressure would do that.
Oh,
It's really good. And I'm sure today she's been a great deal of pain.
it can. Absolutely, it can. The herbs are for fibromyalgia. You can get them all in one product, or you can get them separately as rhodiola, suma, eleuthero, shashandra, ashwagandha are the herbs. And if you want to come up and look at it, you can. And I'll have it tomorrow for you to look at. Following the 8 laws of health. Sure. Do you remember when we were in school filling out a test where you circled in the little black dots? Y'all remember doing that? And the teacher would have a key that we would set on top of it, and wherever your black dot was not, a red dot went there. Do you remember that? I feared the red pen. That's the master key. The master key to health is the 8 laws of health. And if we've got to do those guys, and then we drill down deeper. Yes?
What is vitamin B2 for?
It's a nerve, helps with nerves. Yes? Yes. A mini trample, what to do for the question was B2 for nerves. What can be done for varicose veins? One of the best things I found for varicose veins is a mini trampoline. But be careful. A mini trampoline, you want a handle, keeps you from falling off. Dr. Harold Cherney, Eden Valley, back around 2000, talked me into putting 3 of them into our gym. And they came in and I put patients on it, and the next day they were sick as a dog. They had flu-like symptoms, feel like they've been beat with a baseball bat. And so I called Cherney and I said, Cherney, what's going on here? I said, these guys feel like they've been beat by a baseball bat. And he just starts laughing. Anybody know Dr. Harold Cherney? He was at Eden Valley. Before that, he was in Chattanooga. Before that, you knew Cherney. Great guy. And he started laughing at me. And I said, Cherney, why are you laughing? He said, what did you do? I said, 15 minutes, BID, twice a day. And he just laughed again, and more laughing. And I said, why are you laughing? This is serious. I got a bunch of sick patients. He said, because I did the same thing. He says, the people coming to you are so loaded with toxins. And you just kick their lymphatic system. Actually, a mini trampoline turns on the lymphatic system tenfold. And the liver can't handle it. It gives you a Hertzheimer syndrome or a Hertz syndrome. And they got sick. He says, here's what you do. And this was back, and this was in 01, I guess, 2001. So this has been 22 years I've been doing this now. And I hadn't had another person get sick. He was right. He says, week 1, 5 minutes, 3 times a day. Week 2, 10 minutes, 3 times a day. You turn them pumps on just a little bit, then a little more. And then crescendo it up. And he says, you won't have any more problem. Then you do whatever you want to, he said. And so a mini trampoline is good for varicose veins. Horse chestnut can be taken internally or externally. And help me, Mary Lou. What's the other one? Horse chestnut and no. You could put castor oil in there, sure. But there's another herb that we use other than horse chestnut. We'll have to think. Ask me tomorrow. I can look it up. But horse chestnut's really good too. Adequate water is important. Yeah. Another question. Yes.
Mine's not really a question. I just wanted to mention to everyone, when you're sniffing the oil, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth.
Okay.
Also, the other thing I wanted to say was I have learned, and I've tested it, and it's worked, that almonds, we've been talking about almonds, 10 to 12 almonds is the equivalent of 2 aspirin. It will do the same.
For pain or as an anticoagulant?
It'll help with your headache. It'll help.
Okay.
One night I had a really, really bad headache, and I didn't want to take any ibuprofen or anything like that. I went and got some almonds, ate 12 of them. 5 minutes later, the headache was gone.
It's good to know.
Gone. And my son was getting an earache, and he just didn't think about how many he was eating. He ate a bunch, and that earache was gone.
So she's.
Pain was gone.
So those of you on the camera, she found that 12 almonds works like an aspirin for 2 aspirin for a headache or for ear pain, earache. So that's good to know. Or any kind of body ache. Good.
Also helps with heartburn or
Okay. Excellent. Yes, water's very good. Yes. Yes. With ginger, yes.
You said that cabbage was good for varicose veins.
Uh-huh. Yes, apply it topically on there. Yes, so cabbage is that's right. I'd forgotten about that. Yep. Yeah, that's a different situation. Yes, sir.
I was listening to the radio, and like you said, the guy was saying that most Americans don't have enough vitamin D, with the exception of landscapers and roofers. He said they spend 4 hours or more
Yes.
in the sunshine.
Yes.
But you mentioned, like you said, like 90%, but you mentioned the level that we should have that I cannot remember. He was actually refuting what the doctor said, they take like 2,000 units. And I think he said multiply that times 4 or 5. So what would you say is the normal level for an adult male or female for that matter?
So the question is, what is the normal level of vitamin D for an adult? That depends on the person. It depends on what their blood level is. If their blood level is really low, Dr. Ted Watkins uses 20,000 twice a day until you get it up to where it belongs. I find a lot of people, 5,000 isn't enough. But it just depends on, just like B12, same thing. Now, for example, B12. My B12 is well over 1,200, almost 1,300. Mary Lou's is well over 1,100, almost 1,200. And we don't take B12. So it depends on the person, how much they need. Yes, it depends. Yes, being outside, working outside, having adequate vitamin D, having adequate vitamin C, having adequate K2, the pigmentation of your skin, how dark your skin is. So there's a lot of variables in there. So it's not a cookie cutter. It's person specific. And so you want to find out what your blood level is and take whatever it takes to get it up there. It's kind of like magnesium. I have people who have a bowel tolerance, do not have bowel tolerance at 400 milligrams. They'll have a loose stool at 400 milligrams. I have folks can tolerate 1,500 magnesium. We're doing same with vitamin C. I had a lady that had cancer, and she was doing 50,000 milligrams a day, and it still didn't give her a loose stool.
But
She had cancer on vitamin C. So it depends on the person. It depends on what that blood level is. Yes?
You had mentioned earlier something, if you have trouble absorbing but you take something else with it.
Magnesium,
You take magnesium.
magnesium, vitamin C, K2, all those will help you. Pardon? What's? Oh, magnesium. Yes, there is magnesium there. Yes.
And then a separate question. Any idea, I don't know if you've ever heard of thoracic outlet syndrome, where the nerves in your neck and shoulders get pinched and your hands start falling asleep.
Oh, yes, yes.
Any idea of anything that would work well for that? I was thinking maybe that far infrared, but
You can try far infrared. With nerve issues, B vitamins are always really good for nerve issues. I would try an inversion table to see if there's any impingement, just to try it and see if it may help. But yes, B vitamins work really good for nerves, and especially B6 works real good. And then I would try the far infrared, absolutely. Yes, sir. Oh, what time are we going to be done? He's ready. You're probably speaking for other people too. Yes?
Do you have any thoughts about Hashimoto's or like general thyroid?
Yes, the best thing I found for Hashimoto's is, first thing is no chlorine, no bromide, no fluoride, and no wheat. Those are the no's. And then you want to make sure there's adequate zinc, adequate selenium, and then take L-tyrosine. L-tyrosine, it's an amino acid. Make sure the adrenals are in good shape. But what really makes the difference, also on top of those items, is juicing a vegetable juice fast for 60 days. That has the most effect with the antibodies. And when dealing with Hashimoto's, is having a person, any autoimmune disease, the juice. How many of y'all watched Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead? Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. It's a documentary. Watch movie 1, movie 2 ain't worth watching. He felt that, you can, once you get to where you need to be, you can eat anything you want to. And, well, we all know that's not good. And then he says, if you get sick again, just reboot and pay him to reboot. Well, that's just a moneymaker. Just watch movie 1. And that's like 16 ounces of juice 3 times a day. And vegetable juice. You can put a little apple in it. You can go to our website, themustardseed.us, themustardseed.us, and go to education, and then click on downloads. And there's a bunch of different, and there's like a page and a half of juice recipes to start with that are good for that. And that's probably the biggest effect. And yes, you still want to stay away from the chlorine, the fluoride, the bromide. That inhibits the thyroid from absorbing iodine, and the wheat messes with the thyroid function. And people can use, say, a charcoal poultice, a castor oil poultice or pack, or a bentonite clay, and rotate them and put them on the thyroid, and have identified benefit with that also. You're welcome. Yes, ma'am. Can you mix them together? You can. I don't, but you could, because you got 2 different functions there. But there are people who mix them together, but I just don't, because the charcoal is pulling, and the castor oil is going in. And so to me, it's like you got 2 things going on at once. But there are people who do it, but I just don't. Hang on.
This is kind of a statement. We've had some good luck with canker sores, vitamin E applied topically, and usually that seems to take care of.
Yeah, vitamin E is good for that. You can put salt on it. That can be, but usually canker sores are something going on in the gastrointestinal tract, and so you want to resolve the root issue. And a lot of times it's stomach or colon issues, intestinal issues, or gastrointestinal. Yeah, but vitamin E oil is good to use for that. Yes, for canker sores. Yes, ma'am.
Is it good to use probiotics every day?
Probiotics. We're seeing more and more gastroenterologists recommending probiotics. They're recommending at least 10 strains and at least 50 billion. There's 100 billion and 100 strains. But probiotics can be very beneficial. As I was listening to one professor from it's in Maryland, where Johns Hopkins, at Johns Hopkins. And he said our gut should be like the rainforest, just full of all kinds of good bacteria. And when we take antibiotics, it wipes it out. And even drink chlorinated water. When you drink chlorinated water in the city, that chlorine kills. And that can affect the gut biome also. Yes. Yes. What the smell is in the forest? I know that I can only speak to the pine trees. Mrs. White talks about the benefit of walking in the pines and breathing that. When I went to Africa, in Rwanda, if children are having health issues, the mothers will take them out and sit them under pine trees. And they've done that for who knows how long. And yes. Yes, it's very beneficial. It's an aroma. Where you breathe it, it gets into the blood. Yeah, and pine is very powerful. Who's ever used pine sap? I'll talk about pine sap tomorrow and the medicinal benefits. Yes, sir.
You had mentioned about the weed. Yesterday you talked about that. Is there any weeds in the U.S. that you can get, or do you just recommend gluten-free to altogether?
There are some wheats there are some einkorns, but be careful because I've sent some einkorns off for testing, and they came back as 40, and they were sold as 16 chromosomes. But when I had them tested, they were 42. They were 16 chromosomes, but when I had them tested, they were 42 chromosomes. But here's what's weird: chromosomes. Einkorn, E-I-N-C-O-R-N. What? K-O-R-N. It's einkorn means hard wheat. It has 14 chromosomes. Well, I'm trying to test 2 wheats right now, and I have called all over the universities, especially the states that have a lot of wheat production, and they're saying nobody's testing it anymore. So it makes me wonder why they're not testing it. Yeah, I'm trying to find somebody.
So other than that,
You can buy jovial wheat online, Jovial. It's 14 chromosomes. It's out of France. No, Italy. And Mary Lou, she fixes food with that. So if she's making bread or she's making pizza dough or whatever, she'll use the einkorn. The jovial wheat. Yes, sir.
I used to donate blood a couple of times a year. I don't do it as much, but they stopped me a couple of times. But one time is because I used to live in Germany and they had it. The other time, because my iron level was borderline, I think it was for men 13, 18. Yeah, so I know at that time I was skipping breakfast or just fasting. I wonder if that was the cause for my low iron level, or is there something I can do to increase my iron level?
Did you have any internal bleeding?
No, negative.
Was your spleen okay?
Yes.
Okay. So to increase, yes, you can. One of the easiest ways to increase iron level is take a tablespoon of blackstrap molasses twice a day. And that normally will take care of it. 1 tablespoon blackstrap molasses twice a day. There's a product called Hemaplex. And it works extremely well if the blackstrap molasses doesn't work. A tablespoon twice a day. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I found that I used to have a problem with acid reflux,
Acid reflux?
and so somebody suggested that I take a tablespoon of oats, so old-fashioned oatmeal,
Uh-huh.
not cooked
Yeah.
Plus, I made mental notes, actually wrote down some of the things that I would eat that would cause that.
Right.
So I can have sliced tomatoes, no problem. But if I have any ketchup, any pizza sauce or marinara, any, even just a tablespoon, that's how I think of it. So
Yeah. The biggest cause I find, the biggest cause I found of acid reflux is, number one, is eating within 15 minutes before a meal, during the meal, to an hour to 2 hours after the meal. What did I say, eating? That doesn't make sense, does it? Drinking. You're right, it's time to quit. Drinking, 15 minutes before, during the meal, to 1 to 2 hours after. That's the number one. The other is laying down within 3 to 4 hours after eating. One of the things you want to be cautious with is when using the oatmeal. And there's some things that can be beneficial, but they can cause problems too. Oatmeal uncooked has, unless, here's what you can do, it might work. You can, what Mary Lou does, she'll stick it in the oven for 2 hours on a cookie sheet at 200 degrees, and that will kill the phytic acid, because if you don't kill the phytic acid is a thief. It acts like a sponge, and when it gets down into the duodenum, it actually steals nutrients, and you defecate the phytic acid out, and it stole nutrients that you would have absorbed. But if you heat it like Mary Lou does, if you wanted that raw-like texture, I don't know if it'll work for this, but you could try it. But you want to cook your grains long and not short.
the other thing that was suggested, and it just took too much time, was to break a raw potato, put it in the cheesecloth and squeeze it out and drink that. But it took too long.
Yeah, aloe vera can help. Digestive enzymes. It can be because of not enough digestive enzymes. And so taking digestive enzymes can help. And also activated charcoal. And activated charcoal we used to not use unless we had a problem. But now research is showing that activated charcoal every day, 1 teaspoon or 3 capsules twice a day, actually helps in a number of ways, including cardiac sclerosis. And don't take it within 2 hours of medication, though, or something like more of a refined, like Alimed, because it will soak it up. Activated charcoal, yes.
So it's okay to take it every day?
It is. It's okay to take activated charcoal every day. Just don't take it within a what? And if you have problems, you can use. Be watchful for constipation. Drink plenty of water, or as Mary Lou said, drink a slurry. Yes.
The tomatoes, because the longer you cook the tomatoes, the more acidic it gets. So if you have acid reflux, you're eating that tomato stuff, it's been cooked for a while, so then it's the garbage, that's no problem.
I've got carrots now.
Okay.
And then the pine actually is high in vitamin C as a tea, and it's actually anti-parasitic.
Yeah, pine needle tea is excellent. The Mexicans use it a lot.
The charcoal, you said a teaspoon, like I have powder,
3 capsules.
can you just mix it with water and drink it that way?
Yes.
What do you mix it with?
Water. Yes, sir. Okay, so headaches from eye strain. Number one, look is it blue light? Look at getting blue light glasses. The other is look to see if glasses could be just regular glasses could be beneficial. The other is taking breaks. And there's a product out called Can-C, and it's N-acetylcarnosine. And it is really good for helping with eye issues. What it does is it's like Drano. The problems eyes have is the circulation in the eyes gets clogged up, and that's what causes pressure to go up in the eyes, like for glaucoma, or causing cataracts, or causing floaters. And there's a doctor down in California that started using N-acetylcarnosine and putting a drop in the eye, say 2 drops in the eye, twice a day of the affected eye for a month, and then 1 drop a day, twice a day thereafter. And it works for a lot of eye issues and even eye function. CAN, C-A-N-C. Yes, sir. Okay. So activated means that it has been put under fire and taken the oxygen away, and that increases it goes into a smoldering state, and in that smoldering state of below 16% oxygen, it makes it activated, and that makes it draw better. You don't have to have activated, but it works better. Yes. Yes. Anything else? You? What? I did, while you were putting stuff on. Yes. There are folks that do castor oil for dry eyes. Some people put it directly in the eye. Some people put it on the eyelid and it will go through. The best thing on dry eye, I had a guy who was a retired optometrist. He also was an ND, naturopathic doctor, and he came and worked with us for several years after he retired just to help us out. And for dry eye, the number one he would tell people is make sure they're drinking plenty of water. Optometrists are now finding that it may not be dry eye, may not be enough oil. And what they're doing is they're putting something warm over the eye for about 15 minutes before going to bed or when going to bed. And that can increase oil production and help with dry eye. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it's true.
Also, I heard, because there was a bunch of kids that were having issues, and what they did is they let the kids play outside versus computer games on the phone, so they can see they can look at a distance versus looking just feet away from your.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the fact that they were having to see
It's true.
mountains, trees that were way at a distance, that just the mere fact of doing that, playing outside, they were much better.
That makes total sense. It really does. When you look at doing eye exercises for people with strabismus or whatever they may have, you're looking close, you're looking far. You're looking close, you're looking far. Yes, that makes sense. And the kids are just looking like this all the time. And they're not exercising that far distance. Perfect sense.
Some of them, after doing that, I heard some of them, the prescription was taken away because they needed 50 glasses.
I believe it. It makes total sense. I hadn't thought of that. Thank you. Okay, y'all. Let's close with prayer. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. And tomorrow's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be Old Mountain Remedies, how to make poultices, how to make all kinds of stuff. And we'll talk about some things that we're not talking about on Sabbath. And so, can someone, you want to have prayer?